up, YouTube? It's Dusk. Today I've got Jackal, Gale, and Wolf. We're going to be covering in several videos a discussion for the Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Wii U, and 3DS products that have been announced on E3, and our own comments. First, let's knock the minor issue out of the way, since it hasn't struck controversy. I'll admit some ignorance. I've got next to no information on Nintendo. I couldn't catch their conference. What can you guys tell me on the Nintendo products?
I'm going to be honest with you. I read up some of the stuff on Wiki and some other sites that probably gave some information. So I didn't actually watch the conference because I was busy that day. So I actually couldn't. I actually had to hear about it from someone else. And it was like you weren't the only one that told me. It was actually someone else that told me about the conference. And I will take a look at it when I get home. But as far as I'm concerned, from what I've heard and what I've read, it seems as if Nintendo hasn't really moved too much. It hasn't really gone anywhere. It seems like it's probably, it came out with a new system or a new something new it can do. I'm not too sure about it. All I know is that they kind of revamped some games we already know about and made it a little bit more convenient. But other than that, they haven't really made any big major changes. That's what I know. That's as much as I know. Maybe you guys probably can enlighten.
Yeah, any detailed information, gentlemen?
For the most part, Nintendo has been actually the same since they released the Wii. They just upgraded the games.
I actually tried out the system itself. I love what they're trying to do, and the way I see it, press or no, Nintendo's in the spot where it wants to be right now. It's just perfectly safe from any bashing for the other two. The games, it's good quality. It's a bit of a jump up from the first Wii. The features is what wows me.
On which system, the Wii U or the 3DS?
Mainly the Wii U. Because, like I said, I actually tried it out at a demo reel. Not only is the controller gyroscope, it does play back with old Wii games. And they hinted in one of their commercials, if a person wanted to watch TV that badly, they can simply turn the main monitor off and still play your game on the monitor.
Well, that's actually two advantages it has over its competitors. Backwards compatibility, right?
Yes.
Okay, and yes, if you can watch TV and play your game at the same time, that's information I didn't have before right now.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay, Nintendo's still in the game, even with the whole E3 controversy, which we'll be covering in just a few minutes.
Another plus.
What's the plus?
Yeah. Another plus is that all the old Wii stuff, don't throw them away just yet. You can still use them on that thing. Not just games, but even with the Wii U stuff. You got controllers you want to use for that? Have that.
Wait. So you can still use the GameCube controllers?
Well, not GameCube. No, not GameCube.
They used to plug those. You used to be able to plug them. No, the Wii controller is wireless, so naturally we're going to grab the wireless one from the old system and use them on that as well. Gotcha. Okay.
Alright. I'm sorry.
The Wii U is currently the only system that has backwards compatibility with its predecessor, the Wii. And also, they'll be able to be able to download GameCube games off their console section. You carry over your games that you bought from the Wii onto the Wii U.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Gil. One of Nintendo's competitors, if you guys have read any of the stuff online, has announced plans to do a cross between downloads and backwards compatibility. Something I'll be happy to touch on either this video and a couple ones after, depending on how long the conversation goes. Two games in particular from Nintendo's, it wasn't actually a press conference. Now, how would you guys describe it? Just
I think it was more like an introduction.
I would call it like the upper villains.
Okay.
Yeah, just an introduction.
Two games that, from the revealing, that really caught my attention were, in fact, the opening and closing ones. The new Pokemon games, which we got some much desired information on, and Smash Bros. Now, let's save the best for last. For now, we'll talk about the, as much as it pains me to admit it, slightly less popular title, Pokemon. What do you guys think about the new fairy type, and for that matter, the other changes that you can make in the game?
From what I heard, I'm sorry to cut you off. From what I heard about that, apparently fairy type is now the new opposite for a ghost type.
I don't know. It
Greg.
just
What type of sense does that make?
well, let's face it. Especially from this guy, I do not like you in Pokemon right now. 3 dragons on a team and does not have trouble against ice attacks. I kid you not.
I'm sorry.
Now, when you
like,
can pull that off, there needs to be a fix. Besides, a lot of people have wanted huge changes, or if not, returns back to the 2nd generation ever since we were dumped in Hoenn.
yeah.
And no offense if any of you guys like Hoenn, I personally despise the region. It's my least favorite of the games. But add to it, I mean, a fairy typing.
They would need to create like a counterpart because fairies for dragons makes no sense.
I mean,
Well,
It-
it kind of does, because in certain lores, dragons are either immune to magic, or Pokemon seems to be taking the route where magic is their only weakness.
well, here's the problem though.
Aside from the fact that they're lizards, cold-blooded, and ice.
We still got ghost type though. Like ghost type, in my eyes, I thought the first thing that a fairy would be a counter for was a ghost type.
Well, you have to remember, they only announced the typing advantage against dragon types. They didn't say anything about the other 15 types that it can go up against. So that could still very well be the case. In fact, if any of you guys have been watching my channel up until now, my friend Luna, who's dueled with me many times in the Kaijudo segment, she actually had a very interesting theory that I like, that the fairy types could be weak to normals. Now, naturally, Nintendo's neither confirmed nor denied this, but this would really shift up the meta on account of we would finally have a continuous loop. Since normal really has nothing it's super effective against, we have the beginning of a type strength and weakness chain, and we just branch it out till endings because we have a beginning. If you make something weak to normal, we have a continuous loop, and therefore that not only destroys the current meta like any generation does, but it really gives a huge toss-up as to what is meta. If everything has strengths and weaknesses, then how do you gauge that? Because the way I see it, a meta is set up by, one, someone just decides to take it upon themselves to dictate what's too powerful to use, which is, again, based on where the base of the chain lies and where its ends are, and then you just go with what's strongest at and right under those bands. But if we have a continuous chain, does that now offer for a possible elimination to the meta? Yes, I'm referring to Smogon. I realize they will probably not eliminate the Uber tier, but it does offer many possibilities. What do you guys think on this angle?
Honestly, from this angle, this is where I go back to saying that there's probably going to, like, the one thing I would say is that there's probably either going to be one of two things. If they introduce the fairies as weak, if they introduce the fairies as weak to normals. Random person, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't mind him, he's cool. If they're gonna make it that way, because honestly, I see where you're coming from. It would make sense for a fairy type to actually be weak against normal attacks. In a sense, if you look at it from the angle of, well, just basic stuff like, let's face it, a fairy type.
I think I got a great example that would show this. If anyone remembers, and I cannot believe I'm about to reference Disney, but if anyone remembers the sequel to Peter Pan, fairies being destroyed just because a normal old person says they don't believe in fairies.
Exactly.
I mean, Nintendo might be taking this mentality. You don't know.
I didn't consider that.
Yeah, because like a lot of normal types like actually rely on their physical abilities. They rely more on their skills and physical abilities more than any.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but correct me if I'm wrong, there are many mythological, or rather fantasy lores that claim that such deities or magical beings lose power the less people believe in them.
Actually, that's true for both Greek. Like if anyone watched was either Immortals or I think it was a battle. I was about to say Battle of the Titans. If it was anything, it was one of the Greek movies. Basically, all the gods there. Hell, even in DC universe, if everybody remembers Ares, one of the main enemies to Wonder Woman, he feeds off of conflict alone. Like, so as long as people acknowledge his existence and there are
conflict, ignorance, prejudice, all that nonsense.
Yeah, they have power. Like basically, a normal type monster doesn't have this disadvantage because let's face it, all the other Pokemon, they rely on something. They rely on something as their source of power. So let's say a fairy type monster can cancel out each and every one of those factors because somewhere along the line they can gain from it. A normal type monster, what do you got? Somebody that's probably relying on their own strength, their own speed, probably not summoning fire, probably not summoning ninja action, Jesus magic, go.
Well,
They are just
technically,
fighting.
normal types do have some of the greatest assortment of moves imaginable.
I know, I mean,
but as
we
far as
don't
those
know-
stabs are concerned, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, but like you have to remember Hyper Beam. Now, what got me was that Hyper Beam was a normal move, but then of course I look at it from the point of view of Dragon Ball Z. Maybe they found some ancient like way of learning it. Yeah. So I looked at it from that point of view. When it came to Hyper Beam, Meditate made sense because basically all they're doing is focusing on their own body to harden it and create like a higher level of durability and probably focus on attack strength. And then of course, there's like the different ones that go into the category of normal. Though I am quite surprised, they never really made normal a priority. Like they tried to with the introduction of Blaziken. Because he was a normal fire type, if I'm not mistaken.
Blaziken? No, he was a fighting fire.
Yeah.
A fighting fire type. But as a fighter, he's
Which, by the way, I don't know about you guys, but if Finnegan's final form is another fighting type, I'm gonna lose him. I hate water types because of how really good they are. I personally love a challenge, but I'm actually starting with either the grass or water type just because I do not want to be told that, okay, 4 generations, actually, let me think. 4 generations in a row, fire fighting type? No, it's not been confirmed yet, but if it is, I'm not touching that box. I don't know about you guys. Leave a comment below if you would, but...
Another thing, and I hate to cut you off, but, I mean, I definitely noticed with, like, one of the games, like, if you pick a grass card, and I know it's because it's one of my favorite titles, the Gold and Silver Series. If you're making a thing where you pick a grass type and your first gem is something really screwed in, good luck. Good fucking luck.
I wasn't really too much of the grass types when I was playing Pokemon games. It was I either started off with fire or water, and the only reason being is because grass never appealed to me. That was just the only reason.
Well,
grass types never just appealed to me.
well, true. I mean, I decided to give like grass a chance for like this one run, and if you're trying to put up against like a blind type or something where you know it's weak against, that's not really.
Yeah, and then of course it's like fairly easy based on people's like options and genres. It's fairly easy to find the weakness of a grass type.
You might as well apply the same thing to how it was Generation 1 with fire. And I love fire. But back then, real back home.
True. But back to the point, like over you were saying, first off, I personally kind of do want to see them come up with a new type. And the reason being is because, I want it to be shaken up a little bit, give people who probably want to select things like different chests. I don't want this to be anything like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now in terms, where we're not going to let you really construct the deck you want. We're going to ban certain cards so we can promote our series and make money off of it. I hate it when people say they're not doing that. They're just, making it more of a challenge. No, if you wanted to make it more of a challenge, unban some of the cards and allow people to construct the deck they want and see how good you are against it. But don't make an excuse for them banning certain cards because they're uber broken. There's nothing uber broken about back when they had banned Monster Reborn, there was nothing uber broken about that.
Exactly.
It was just one-time summon from either graveyard, and the only problem with it, this is literally the only problem with it. It could be put into a deck if you had the right number of them, or just one. It could be put into a deck that can easily take out any of the series that were current at that time.
Here's the problem with Monster Reborn. They have Stardust on the field. I activate Darkhold, Stardust negates, I Monster Reborn and Stardust.
But now it's back in play, so...
I mean, it's back in play. I mean, but it's not. But here's the thing, though. That was
Guys, I'm sorry to cut you all off, but I mean, we have also sidetracked the Pokemon entirely, and we've hit the 14-minute mark. I'm going to cut this part of our discussion off. Check the description below, and there will be a link to the next episode of our discussion. See you guys in a few minutes.